All right, welcome back. This is M-Dog, and we're going to do a follow-up video here to the last one we did, which, let's see, what did we end up calling that? Ideas for 5-day trips to Norway, how to start, where to fish, what to use. So the first thing I want to do is actually read some comments that's been left on that video, which some of them have been very helpful. Leo says, I'm level 27. So far I went to the sea twice with silver. The first time I earned 2,100 and 26.5%. So there's one of our answers on what's a reasonable amount of percentage you can expect to earn on that first sea trip. Second time was 2,500. It was worth it because I saved up for the first and last caliber. It would have been better if I knew this information before, but I know about the third time. Greetings from Croatia. Greetings to you as well. So Louis Schmidt says you can do more than 3 tours, so don't be patient. Totally, I did 6 tours over the time of a year. So just, my understanding, I think what I'm about to tell you is correct information. You just sort of lucked into being able to do more than 3 tours because over the course of that year, RF4 did a reset on tours that people have done. But I think the standard protocol, standard structure is still that you're allowed 3 tours. So unless you happen to get lucky and have those 3 tours reset by RF4, then you are going to be limited to the 3 tours. And that's why when you go to the details, it talks about 3 times. I mean, it literally lists it on the page. But on the other hand, Louis Schmidt said something helpful, which was, personally, I would recommend the Jig Meister 110. And it's so interesting because when I was out here on making the first video, I actually thought about that. Either one of these two, the 75 or the 110, would be another lure if I was going to recommend one to purchase for this trip for somebody. That might be what I would recommend, because back when I first got to Norway, I remember that was one of the lures that did really well. Sounds like people are still using it. So we might even use that one a little bit today and see if it's still doing decent even now. Someone else said, great video, part 2, please. And here's a nice video. I mean, a nice response from It's Blunty. Always appreciate Blunty's insights. And he says, just FYI for new players watching this, your skill in marine percent overall. So what he's talking about there is if you go to screen percentage, we're at 100% marine fishing. And Blunty saying your skill in marine percent overall affects your bite rate and your fish size. So don't be surprised if you end up with smaller and less fish than M-Dog if you're new to the sea. Which I think is true. I think there's a lot of things affecting basically the overall RNG, random number generators, that spit out a result and affect what fish and how many of the fish you're catching. I do think that is one of the more impactful ones though. So that is a great point that Blunty brings up. Your results may differ if for no other reason than because of this 100% versus 0% if it's your literal first time going to the sea. Again, it's just going to change that RNG a little bit. There's other factors that change it too. I think you're still going to have a fun, productive experience, as many people will tell you, but yes, it could be a little different. So thank you for that, Blunty. And somebody else says, great video. Everything makes sense when there's someone to explain it to you. I'm almost level 34 and wondering what to buy for there. Should it be a Vinga or something else? And Louis Schmidt says, personally, I go to the Vinga and it does very good, better than what you get for the tour. Vinga better than the Azimuth 10,000? Interesting. The benefit of the Vinga is that you can use it for every method of spinning or ground fish. That's what I would highly recommend, Vinga, if that's your play style. Yeah, I would recommend the Regal. It's a lot cheaper than the Vinga. You still can get a lot of power out of it, and you have 2 gear ratios, which helps so much on the sea. So for what it's worth, I would recommend the Vinga for a lot less money than the Regal for a lot less money than the Vinga. So there's some of the messages from the first video. I really appreciate the comments. Just remember, whether it's my comments or anyone else's, like, take it with a grain of salt. Don't assume that one person has this game figured out, because in truth, none of us really do. We can just tell you like trends we've seen, things that seem to work better than other things, but those things can change over time. And so I'm not saying you can't trust any advice, but you just always need to be like engaging critical thinking. This game is complicated enough that absolutes are usually overstated. By the way, for what it's worth, Azimuth 10,000 only has a rated drag of 27.2 with a mech weight of 55. And if you're talking about the highest level Venga, it's got more of a higher rated drag, 31.7, and the mech weight of 99. So yes, in this case, if you're comparing Azimuth 10,000 to Venga, the Venga is much better for fishing in the sea. The Azimuth 10,000 is going to cost you 21,500, and the Venga 10,000 is going to cost you 32,000. That's 11,000 more. Still worth it to save for the Venga, I think, if that's your choice. But you can get the Regal for whatever, 8,000. I mean, you know, a fraction of the cost just to get started. You can make a lot of silver at the sea for the Regal. Is the only reason why I would recommend at least considering the Regal. Gather some information about it. All right. We're going to test out the Jig Meister. First and 34. I mean, again, like, sort of when I recorded this a couple days ago, the first part of this series, or these couple of episodes, I don't get the sense that, like, the Norwegian Sea is, like, on fire right now. But I also think it's always pretty good. So I don't mind, you know, let's do some testing. Let's see how the Jig Meister is doing. The other thing we didn't test last episode that we could test now is, instead of the foam rubber fish, in terms of a jigging setup, we could test the maggots or something like that. Another soft bait. Let's see what kind of bite rate we can get with this Jig Meister, though. All right, we get a quick bite here. It's very small, but that's okay. Anything is good in the Norwegian Sea. There's a little haddock. So the little haddock got on pretty quick. Let's see. Now, what we might not do during this episode, unlike the last one, is I may not even go down to 41 to test it. 41 yesterday, or 2 days ago when I recorded the last one, seemed so slow that I think we'll just pass on 41 this time. We'll do a little bit at 34, maybe a little bit at 55, and then we'll just wrap it up. At least theoretically, I would have expected the Jig Meister to be not quite as good as the Lurker 100, especially if you could find the color of the Lurker 100 that's kind of going off in terms of bite rate. But quality of fish, I don't know. I think that, you know, can change a lot, but bite rate, I would think the Lurker would still be a little better. But if quality ends up being decent, it still could be a reason to use the Jig Meister. Maybe after a few fish on this, we, do a comparable with the lurker, maybe the 08 instead of the 07. Yeah, it's pretty slow. I'll be interested to try this at 55, see if it's any better. This is just too slow though. If it's this slow, you need to change lures. All right, let's try the lurker maybe. Let's go. Now, we could also do the smaller Jig Meister. Maybe we do that before we switch to lurker so that we're doing the comparable. The only problem with this is you're kind of into that like so small, 75 grams. Hopefully it will help the bite rate, but we're already kind of catching some small fish, trending small. So that worries me about the Jig Meister 75 gram, but we'll see. Let's give it a few minutes. Surely it won't be as slow as the heavier one was though. Okay, that was better. But let's see if it's consistent. In some ways, you just want something with a decent bite rate. Like the good fish, like this one, they'll come. The bad fish will be there too, in terms of like this too small fish. You just want something that you're catching fish because you want to level up. You want to level up your sea fishing because eventually that's what's going to allow you to put better rigs on. Or to fill out this rig type. But while you're doing that, you still should be making decent silver. Obviously, if you're doing this trip, you want to be making some silver. So that took a little longer, although this is a much bigger fish, so we'll take that for sure. And again, this is on the smaller Jig Meister. It's a nice haddock. Wow. That is a really nice haddock, 6.3. So this 75 Jig Meister so far, so it seems pretty good. It's going to be a little bit more similar to well, no, the bonds are bigger actually. So now these bonds, these small bonds, these are 70 grams, so even smaller than what we're using right now. But if but those small bonds don't come with the trip. You'd have to actually purchase those, and I don't think those are worth purchasing. I mean, I guess you could try it, but if you're going to go smaller, this would probably be the thing to try. But that was a nice haddock. Love to see that. There's a sculpin. Hey, it's a nice lumpfish. Look at that XP. Imagine catching that at level whatever you are on a trip. Yeah, so we might have found our lure here. This Jig Meister is doing terrific. All right, let's just look at the lurker. Now again, this is going to slow us back down, but we'll at least give it a try. That lumpfish is pretty incredible. I think that haddock and that lumpfish are both better fish than anything we caught in the last episode. And both of them were on the Jig Meister 75. So I would say this lurker's doing good in terms of bite rate. Now, ooh, that's a nice eel pout. We'll take those eel pouts. So lurker and small Jig Meister. It's interesting. All right, a little bit of a time lapse here, obviously, that's happened as it's dark now. But that was just because I realized I had to get some food. I don't know if any of y'all have that problem where, like, all of a sudden, it's sort of like it sneaks up on me. It's like all of a sudden I'm like, oh, yeah, I've got to eat something. So, I don't know what's going on. Like, last few times I've played, it's like my comfort's always out of whack, even when it's not raining, or it's not like we're in October and 100-degree weather or something. I don't know. But regardless, I put, as I suppose you just saw, I switched it to a jigging rig, and I'm actually going to use the maggot. We'll start with the yellow one. The reason why I'm doing this is because I figure, you know, you may be taking your Norwegian trip before you had a chance to level up your lure making at all. So instead of the foam rubber fish that you can craft, we'll use another very reliable soft lure for jigging, which is the maggot. There's a nice haddock. So we're using the maggot, Heaven Creek Maggot 4004. I would say this one, maybe the black one, really all the colors, just kind of like how the handmade foam rubber fish do, but I especially like the 4 and the 1, I guess. If I had to choose a couple to start with. And like I said in the last video, overnight hours, to me at least, as good a time as any to do some experimentation with jigging rigs versus the pilkers. And the only other thing I want to do in this one is, once it's daytime, just kind of head out to the 55. We did a little bit of fishing at the 55 last time, and it seemed to go pretty well, so I wanted to go try it again. Give it a little bit more time. We'll try it with the Jig Meister and maybe the lurker again. Yeah, this lure seems to be doing pretty well. We've gotten the marker haddock followed by a marker cusk. So if your bite rate slows down at night on the Jig Meister or lurker, bond, whatever pilker rig you're using, if you have the jigging setup available to you, don't sleep on trying out this. There's a juicy cusk, 5.4. You see how slow it's gotten? I mean, this was truly like the overnight hours. It can definitely slow down at times. We'll just give it another couple minutes here, and then we'll head out to 55. Okay, let's get out to 55 here. All right, so here we are at 55, just like last time, but instead of the jigging, we're going to immediately switch back to the Pilker rig with the 75 Jig Meister, and we'll throw some strips on there just for fun. Let's see how we do here at 55. I like 55 when it's pretty active because just like the 34 and 41 bank, it's shallow enough that you feel like you're not waiting forever for your lure to get to the bottom. But I do think that sometimes you have a little higher chance of running into something scary at this little bit deeper location. But we'll see how this goes. It's always worth a try. Last time, 2 days ago when we filmed the first episode at least, this seemed like pretty active out here, so we'll try the Jig Meister and then we'll probably try the lurker just before we wrap this next part up. There we go, not bad. One thing I remember about last time we were out here is that the storm started, right? We started hitting that really terrible the wind and current, which that kind of changed things a little bit. I think using this small of a lure does help a little bit. I'm not quite as worried about us like running into too big of a monster out here since we've got a 75-gram lure on, but I mean, it can still happen. This is a decent fish. I mean, now, you know, remember, if you're catching a little bit larger fish, like if we were catching this size consistently, at the end of the day, it would be worth it. But we are having to reel it in a little bit longer than we would at the 34 meter. What is this? Oh, no wonder. Man, this is a nice fish. But these flatfish feel like they were a ton. It's a nice thorny though. Another 38 KXP with happy hour and premium. Very similar to what we got for the lumpfish. That is another nice fish. Guess we've got a little too high elevation because it's not quite hitting bottom. I think it's just this current is just drifting. Can't quite get on top of it. All right, let's see if we let it go straight down, if it will hit bottom. All right, there we go. We're not on the edge or anything. It's either maybe because of how light the lure is, maybe that kind of messes with its ability to actually find that path straight back down to the bottom layer instead of maybe scooting around some. I mean, even when I just let it sit still, it looks like it's rising up a little bit. There's a fish. So let's see, we went from the skate to something much smaller. Able to zoom in twice because we have binoculars. Is that another lumpfish? So weird, man. Since that update where they added a few more fish species, I feel like we just consistently get like a lumpfish an hour or something like that. All right, let's try one more here and then we'll switch to the lurker for a minute. Obviously, this is going to end up being a lot shorter session than the last one, just in terms of like actual fishing time. Congrats to Steve GT, by the way, on that trophy common carp. But I just thought it would be worth. Really wanted to test the Jig Meister was the main thing, but also hopefully spend a little bit more time here at the 55. So let's see. Let's go to Lurker 08. And let's put the small Saith on there. I just trying to get some, I guess trying to get some weight. And see if we can counteract the current that's blowing everything around. All right, first fish on the lurker seems to be a decent one. $3-kilo cusk. So that's a nice save. That is short. You know, again, we haven't been doing this long since switching over to the lurker. This is only 2 fish in fact, but so far, like, seems decent. We're quickly drifting off of this bank, though. We got to watch it. You can tell we're on the edge. Look how deep it is. We're actually like just drifting off as we speak. If we don't get a fish pretty quickly, we'll probably have to just bring it back up. Yeah, we're not even on the bottom anymore. And this is certainly deeper than we want to be fishing. Okay. Oh, thank goodness. Oh, I'm always like stubborn about wanting to catch a fish before we bring the line back in, but if we drifted too much further, it just was going to get pointless. What in the world? It's a little small redfish. Okay, so let's see. Obviously, we don't have the quantity of fish this time, but we did have some pretty nice quality of fish. Yeah, we could have gotten that eel pout if we had fished a little longer. Pollock, maybe. If you have smaller stuff, you can, that sorry order would be very doable, but not without the drop shot shrimp and stuff. Still, some pretty nice silver for how little we actually fished. If you look at this thorny skate and the lumpfish, 2 big earners here this time around. So yeah, we didn't fish for that long, but you kind of see how we were doing. Quality of fish is pretty decent. So anyway, hopefully that was enjoyable and giving you an idea of why is it saying the slot is empty? Why does this keep happening? An idea of some of the... Anytime you log out, it takes the travel thing out of whatever slot you had it located in. That's weird. And it looks like it resets what lure it's using. But we ended up having the best success in this short amount of time we fished on the Jig Meister 75 instead of the 110, although it might be worth trying the 110 some more. We also did pretty good on the Lurker 108, and we also did well on the Maggot 04, the yellow one, the 4 gram. All right, as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.